When Halloween rolls around, I sometimes like to sit back in the old chair, sip on some nog. There's no nog involved. I'm
No,
just saying that. I guess if it was Christmas time, there'd be some nog,
it's the
but
wrong season.
maybe no. Wait, there's pumpkin spice nog. Let's go with that.
All
Sip
right.
on some pumpkin spice nog, and crack an old book and just devour it. And since it is the seasons of
Literally, I mean.
ghosts and ghoulies, yeah, they just eat books.
Yeah,
It's pretty good.
It's not good.
I'm just a massive termite. People don't know that. But yeah,
It's the hiding the antennas.
they're really tiny, like my penis. But anyway, what isn't tiny is the tome that I'm going to choose for my favorite horror book, and that is Clive Barker's Weave World. Now, this is kind of like a cheat in the sense that this is not strictly horror. Now, he's written strictly horror stuff, like the bulk of the Books of Blood short stories, or Cabal, or the Damnation game, but Weave World is, I think, his first massive foray into a mixture of dark fantasy and horror. So that's why I say it's a cheat. Again, not directly horror. There's so much fantasy elements in this that you gotta give it its own subgenre heading in terms of calling it dark fantasy. And in fact, this is the book that gave him the title The Master of the Dark Fantastic, because he really did cement his unique, outlandishly large imagination with this offering. And he only went on to do that more and more as time progressed. But this is the first one that I indulged in that really touched upon that wholly, and it fascinated me, man. It is so rich with how much is in there, with how intensely vivid the world building is, that it really will shock the reader. It leaves me speechless, as you can probably tell, how one person can have that much imagination and make it work.
You know,
It really does.
I have seen the future of horror, and its name's Clive Barker.
So said Stephen King, and you'd think
And
that,
me.
yeah, yeah, it really did cement his career. It really did help Clive Barker become something big here in the States. That statement from Stephen King. But whether he had that or not, I'm glad he did, because it allowed him to do a lot more than he would have originally. Horror fiction is such a small subgenre that, you got to be somebody very lucky or incredibly talented and lucky to get to the levels of Stephen King. But Clive Barker is one of those people that touches on the heels of King in terms of popularity, and King had a lot to do with that. He said to the world, I'm the guy that you think of horror, but here's the guy that I see as the future of horror. And I'm glad he said that, because it did allow Barker to open up the doors to more projects. And if you know anything about Barker, he's a lot of things. He's a director, he's a writer, he's a playwright.
He's gay.
He's gay as hell. He's an actor. He's a photographer. He's a painter, and he's great at every single one of them.
Especially loving cock.
Especially loving big black cock.
Yeah.
Because he was married to a black man for a long time.
That's why
And
Guardian likes
he
him.
went down on that 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the guy, besides loving cock, loves to write a good story. And man, he is fantastic. I think this is the epitome of his work. It really, really captured my imagination. And it is a labor of uncanny, unbound imagination itself. It's just amazing, man. It really is an amazing book to indulge in. And again, it never crosses completely into horror, but it does take in so much of horror that you can't help but dub it that. So this is my absolute favorite book in the horror realm. What is yours?
I haven't read many. I was gonna pick a Stephen King film, but it wasn't a horror or book. But it wasn't a horror book, so I can't.
Irony of ironies.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do a little cheat and just bring up the whole Vault of Horror.
Now, we did mention this is my favorite collectibles, but these comics are timeless, so it's worth you mention them again.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I know as a kid I devoured these, again, literally on the count of the termite thing. But
You literally ate like hundreds of dollars because they're original prints.
yeah, How did they factor into your childhood?
I read them through you. So basically, I would get the ones that were falling apart because you didn't want to trust me with the ones that were in better conditions.
Still wouldn't, by the way.
Nope. But they're like you said, they like stick to you, the stories, and you can read them like over and over.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was one of those things. Whenever we'd go to like a comic place, we would get them, even if they were like pretty expensive. Sometimes they were pretty expensive. But I have a few. I don't have very many. I do have multiples of certain ones just because they're the ones you find easily. You have way more than I do. But these are the ones that, like, if I could have one entire run of comics, it would be this.
This would be it.
This one in particular has the Monkey Paw story, which is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's one of those where it's like, there will be at least one story you'll like in every one.
Yeah, if not more.
If
usually
not more.
more.
Yeah, usually more. The art is always freaking great.
Mm-hmm. It's just absolutely timeless comics, and I can't get over, like you said, they had such a readability, but I can't get over the fact that I used to read these with my mom.
Yeah, it is weird.
Quite often, and she would enjoy them quite a bit, and she's not prone to enjoy horror as much. She would watch it with me.
Yeah.
She would make it pretty fucking clear when she didn't like something that was horror related. But these was one of the few things that, as a child, I would have like a reading day with mom. She would actually ask to read these.
Yeah, that's weird.
Which is odd, but that just goes to show you that how they just capture the imagination of any age group.
These are kind of like, they're so weirdly comforting to me that when I was in a mental health hospital, this is what I was reading.
Which is the way to fix the old brain, by the way.
In fact, this particular one I was reading over and over. And Watchmen also, by the way, which is like, yeah, this is the one to read if I don't want to freaking kill myself out of depression. But no, this one was like the one I would go to and I would draw the old witch like over and over. It was like one of those weird comfort things.
And we mentioned this in the other video, but the irony of that, and I think the reason they are so alluring is not so much the fascination with the bizarre, but the fact that they are ultimately parables, morality tales. They ultimately do have substance to them. There is something to be said about them. They, despite the ghouls and goblins and weird oozy gore, they have something to say about being a human being in this very simple way, Yeah. And that's really, I think, what makes them so timeless.
They're so identifiable in that like whenever we see something that kind of reminds us of it, we actually say that's Tales from the Cryptian, even though that's just the way. That's the one people know, Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah.
But
Well, there you have it, folks. These are our favorite horror books. What are yours? Let us know. In the meantime, hit like, share, and subscribe. I'm Ahab. That's Goontick, and we are out.